Is the felon's heart failing so badly that he needs a left ventricle assisting device or a right ventricle assisting device? Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, hyping the videos, commenting on them, and watching them all the way to the end really does help the videos get to more people. So for that, a huge, huge thank you. And if you've donated money to the channel through the super thanks, buy me a coffee and Venmo, it's all greatly, greatly appreciated. I am running my fall 2025 Patreon class. It will close on at the end of the month. So if you want to sign up for that, the link will be in the description. If you go to my Patreon, you can find a syllabus that explains what the class is about, or you can always just shoot me an email and ask me about it. My email is scryingoutloud3@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer your questions. Okay, so this has been circulating for a little while, I guess, about whether the felon has these left or right ventricle assisting devices. There have been some pictures of bulges in his jacket that kind of suggest that there might be a box there. I saw a picture from the Charlie Kirk thing where there were lights. So we'll look into that. We'll kind of see. I've scried on this. I think I kind of know where this is going to go, but I want to take a deeper look. And then the felon and RFK coming out with Tylenol during pregnancy increases the chance of autism. Let's look at that. Um, and let's also look at Trump's or the felon's approval rating, which is plummeting really badly. There's some polls that have it under 40% with a disapproval rating above 60%. And then I want to look at the Virginia governor's race between Abigail Spanberg and Earl Sills, the Republican. I also want to look at the Virginia House of Delegates because it is possible that if the Democrats can keep control of the House of Delegates, win the governorship, they already control the Senate, um, that they could redistrict Virginia in an attempt to undo what Republicans are doing with their own redistricting. So we'll look at that. And we'll also look at the New Jersey governor's race between Mickey Sherrill and her Republican um, opponent. So let's start with these governor's races. Let's start with the one in New Jersey, and then we'll move to Virginia, and then we'll go to uh, the felon's approval rating and how that might affect these races. And then we'll look at Tylenol and autism, and then we'll get to the question about the felon's heart. Okay, so show me. Will will Mickey Sherrill win? Will Mickey Sherrill win the New Jersey governor's race? So I definitely see the word yes in the scramble. Um, I've always thought that she would. I could always just picture her taking over in New Jersey. I do think this race is somewhat closer than you might expect. I think in some weird ways, the Virginia race will be less close than the New Jersey race, which uh, is kind of unthinkable, but I do think that's what happens. Um, this just has to do with New Jersey's. New Jersey's like Kentucky, right? But blue. Kentucky will elect a Democratic governor. New Jersey will elect a Republican governor. It's just not that unheard of. But I think she wins. She's certainly been working hard, planting seeds. Uh, Her challenge is the economy. Whether people view themselves as stable and whether they blame Governor Murphy for that or whether they blame the felon. You know, People aren't thinking about it too hardly yet. It's in the subconscious. People are still just kind of daydreaming through their thinking. In the past, we have circles of support around money, so that's good. She's a base of helping her to raise money. Um, It's going to take some money. I don't think it's going to take as much as normally an election does because I don't think people respond to ads. I think they need to be more worried about social media presences. We do get the emperor in the crowning the reading, which is about abuse of power and the card for the presidency. So I do think that the felon will be top of mind. This obviously is not good for the Republican. Uh, the near-term outcome is choices make sense. People have to go vote. Uh, the way you know insiders are seeing the situation as hers being quite empathetic. Um, the way she sees herself as being quite fiery and passionate and delivering fiery messages and speaking quite eloquently. In the hopes and fears is the Page of Pentacles. That makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of fear that money will influence the outcome of this election. And in the outcome, we get that it's inevitable. The question was, will she win? So it's inevitable that she wins. Because she is seen as the more stable candidate and one to bring back the economy. So I feel pretty confident about Mickey Sherrill winning. Now, when I say it'll be close, I don't mean like, 2 or 3 points close. I mean 8 or 9 points, right? Um, so I think it'll just be surprising that that race is, I think, going to be closer than the Virginia race. Why I think that I do. Okay, so what about Abigail Spanberg in Virginia? Will she win the Virginia gubernatorial race? Will Abigail Spanberg win the Virginia gubernatorial race? So I think we'll do a Celtic cross for this as well. Yeah, this isn't going to be close. Republicans are going to try to come and fearmonger and tell you that it's close. It's not going to be close. I think Spamberger wins by 15 to 20 points. Like, I just don't think it's close. Um, yeah, it doesn't feel like her Republican opponent has any chance. The Hierophant at the foundation of the reading. So, the church, the Pope, the courts, people are worried about the possibility that if they elect a Republican governor, and the House of Delegates goes Republican, and then in 2 years when the Senate is up, it goes Republicans, that there's serious threats to women's reproductive rights. So I think that should be the argument she's making. The challenge is voter fatigue, just getting people to the polls, the Four of Swords. Um, you know, underneath we get temperance. People are thinking about just more moderate times. Glenn Youngkin's not as popular as people like to think he is. Uh, in the past, we get the Eight of Wands. This is her kind of coming into her own, serving in Congress, and then um, rising in the political ranks. And then crowning the reading, we get the Page of Cups. So emotional messages, these little stories that Republicans don't want anybody to hear are the reason why she's going to win big. Um, In the near term outcome, we got anxiety. That makes sense. Everybody's nervous about all these elections because there's so much at stake because Republicans have just gone off into to la land. I don't even know where they're at. They're so wildly incapable of telling the truth at this point. Uh, the way people see her is as the Ten of Pentacles, bringing wealth to their families, bringing security, promising a better future or better future for the next generation, and that's ultimately why she wins. The way she sees herself as heartbroken. I think she really feels quite deeply bad about what's going on in the country and also what's going on in Virginia. I think that's why her message resonates. Um, and it's inevitable in the hopes and fears that she wins. That's the hope, is that it's not going to be close. The outcome, we get death, the end of a cycle, and Republicans currently control the gubernatorial. position in Virginia. So I do think that's the end of that reign. And she gets the star card of protection. These are all really good cards. And yeah, the Ace of Cups. Uh, I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's going to surprise people on how non-competitive this race is. Now, you'll see the occasional poll that has the Republican within 3 or 4 points, but don't believe it. It's probably not true. Just like the ones that showed the felon having a positive approval rating aren't true. Um, Polling is tricky for sure, but all right. Do Democrats keep control of the House of Delegates? They currently have 51 seats to the Republicans' 49 seats in Virginia's House of Delegates. So this is always a close one. In fact, I think, wasn't it 50-50 for a while at one time? Uh, we get the Page's sword. So, you know, Democrats sabotaging Democrats is definitely a fear here. Um, but we get the King of Swords as well. So, I think logic and consistency is people are just really thinking that, let's just get one party in control and get some stuff done because there's been divided government for 2 years now. And we get justice, balancing out um, the federal uh, government being in control of Republicans. So, yeah, I think they do keep control. The tower, I think the tower was the felon getting into the White House and ruining the economy, and people are ready to move forward, and they want they want to know that government is there to help them. Because I think so many of us just think, what is the government even doing? It's not. It's hurting people. It's not helping people at this point. So, um, unless you're super super wealthy, then maybe it does. So, let's throw just one card here. Will Virginia redistrict? Well, we got the Nine of Pentacles. They'll have everything that they need to do it. Um, and the King of Wands, there's going to be really good arguments to do it. I'm not sure with the Eight of Cups here. They definitely don't want to talk about it until after the election. So I think that's probably best. That's probably the best way to go about this is to just wait till the election's over before even bringing it up. So I'm not entirely convinced that they do, but I'm not convinced that they don't either. Okay, so Tylenol's behind all the autism cases in the US, apparently. I don't think that's exactly what they said, but what they said is dangerous and woefully misunderstanding the idea of correlation and causation, which you would think somebody in charge of Health and Human Services would know the difference. I would expect a lawsuit here from the makers of Tylenol and even um, I forget what is the name of the company that makes all the generic medicines? But just any makers of acetaminophen, which is Tylenol. I expect there to be a lawsuit because it's just not the truth. It's just even if it were the truth, they don't have the evidence to support it. But I don't think it's the truth. So let's just see. What do we need to know about Tylenol and autism? My feeling is always that this has to do with pesticides, but um, the first reported cases of autism were before Tylenol even was on the market in the 40s. So um, I think diagnosis has gotten better. I also think that people are more comfortable having their autistic children being part of society. So I think that's part of why there's so many more like noticeable cases of it. Um, and it's not like it's unique to the US. It's not. So I don't buy this Tylenol thing, but what do we need to know about it? See the justice card in the water. I do think that there's going to be a lawsuit about this. It's well, first, I mean, the good news is I don't think anybody is taking this remotely serious. Maybe pregnant women might and just not take Tylenol. I mean, there are other things to take. Um, you know, it's not like they have evidence of somebody that was, pregnant and popping Tylenol every day. I mean, how often does the normal person take two Tylenol? Maybe once or twice a week. If you've got arthritis, maybe a little bit more, or have headaches on a regular basis a little bit more. This tends to be, people that get a little bit older. So I just don't see it. Uh, we get the Eight of Wands here. Things moving quickly on this front. Yeah, people just don't care. They care about autism. They don't care about what RFK Jr. and the felon had to say about it. They just don't care. Nobody believes a word of it is kind of the way it feels. Um, Moving out of troubled waters here, the Six of Swords. The Six of Cups, that makes perfect sense being in this reading, just kind of validation of what we're talking about. You know, people on the spectrum, a lot of them live pretty healthy, productive lives. I think there's also this misnomer that this is like the worst thing that can happen. I mean, I get that everybody wants their children to have all the benefits of everything possible in life, but uh, at the same time, I mean, we certainly have people in our lives that are on the spectrum, and it is just what it is. It's not. We get victory here at the center of the reading, and we get empathy. I do think deep down people want to know why these things happen. Will we figure it out one day? Probably, but probably not in my lifetime would be my guess. My guess is it's far more complicated about certain genes being turned on and off. Uh, maybe related to pesticides. I don't think it's like anything pregnant women are doing in particular. Like I don't think it's that easy to stop. I think it's more of a randomness to it. We get the Four of Swords, very ill behavior that they did today, and dangerous too. Uh, the Moon card, volatility. I don't think it's one thing that causes autism. I don't think it's even two things or three things. I think it's a multitude of things that that lead to it. I think it just when you go into that energy, first of all, it's just a kind of a confusing energy. I like that the puzzle piece is kind of the symbol of autism awareness because that's kind of really what it feels like. Is it just it feels like, trying to piece together everything. And I don't know that we're going to. And I think it's somewhat random. Um, I know we like to think that we get to control everything in life, but we don't. It's just the truth. So, uh, you know, they came out with a rush to judgment. I think the makers of acetaminophen and Tylenol are going to sue, and I think that they will win. And I think the cause of autism is really up in the air. I don't think we really have very good evidence, one way or the other on anything. I think this was a decision made because you have two ill individuals talking to each other. I think ultimately Tylenol and the makers of acetaminophen win in court, and we move forward and we actually start doing real research. No study into autism that only takes 9 months is going to be worth anything. Is way more complicated than that. I don't think the public's listening to what was said, so I think that's okay. I do think it'd be great to get to the bottom of this, and I think, people want healthy, happy children. They just do. But I think there's a lot of volatility in how this works. I don't think it's quite that straightforward or that simple with the moon card here. And underneath, yeah, I mean, we had the Empress, fertility, motherhood. Makes perfect sense. The Lover's card, unlikely connections and choices. I don't think it's that simple. I really don't. It doesn't feel that simple. It's, yeah, I mean, what percentage of pregnant women went their whole term without taking a Tylenol? I don't know. My guess is it's maybe not as high as you might think, but it's probably, I mean, as low as you might think, but it's probably not 100%, right? Uh, but I mean, I don't know. I would think that that would be a pretty common thing for someone to take if their feet hurt or whatever. Um, Especially if you're told it's safe. And I have no reason to believe one way or another that it's not. I I don't buy that it's linked to autism personally. But all right, Trump's or the felon's approval rating has been plummeting, and nobody is really reporting on the scene and kind of covered it a little bit. But a really good pollster had his approval rating at 39, I think it was, and the disapproval at 60, which is really bad for Republicans. The generic ballot, there's some polls that have Democrats ahead by as much as 8 to 10 points, and those are the good polls. The bad polls are the ones that don't have them up as much. Um, and by good poll and bad poll, I just mean looking at the methodology of how it's done. No, nothing, no online surveys. I don't think those are particularly reliable personally, but okay, what do we need to know about the felon's approval rating? Then we'll look at his heart. Yeah. I telling you, I think the Charlie Kirk behavior afterwards, the dismissal of Jimmy Kimmel, who will be back on the air, just like I said, um, on later tonight, because you'll see this video on Tuesday. Uh, I think this really hurts Republicans. It doesn't help them. I don't know why they thought it would. Um, there's a reason why Charlie Kirk didn't have as big a following as like Joe Rogan or I'm not really sure how big his following was, but there's just a reason. Like, when he would go to a college campus, not 50% of the college would flock to hear him. It was more like 3, 2, maybe 1%. Like, now if you go to a religious school, perhaps there were more, but at a secular state school, people don't like Charlie Kirk. At least not the ideas that he propelled. Um, I don't think anybody was calling for anything bad to happen to him, but other than the person that did it. Yeah, the felon's quite trapped here at the Eight of Swords. There is no coming back, I think is the point. His approval rating is what it is, and it's not going to go up. It's only going to go down further. And the reason is there is nothing in the near future that's going to be a win for him. unless he undoes everything that he did, in which case that loses MAGA. So, I mean, there really is no win. It's a no-win situation. I think people have really thought this through. Their support of the Republicans. Uh, I think, things are moving quickly and the wrong way for him with the Eight of Wands. There are things going on behind the scenes that we can't see that are contributing to his polling decline. I think these are the conversations around the dinner table. These are the conversations happening amongst peer groups at universities and um, seniors in high school that'll be voting age. And everybody's just wondering why. Why is life suddenly harder? There's only one reason why life is suddenly harder in the United States. That's the felon. So, I mean, it makes perfect sense that people are turning their back on him. They see him as the person celebrating greed. He never takes accountability at the Ten of Wands here. All the burdens that, you know, he's guilty of putting on us, he'll never take accountability for, which makes it even worse. I think people blindly trusted that he might do something okay, and they're being proved that that was wrong. And now people are just ready to pass really harsh judgment. And we get the star card of protection, which is the universe's way of protecting the country from him and the world from him. So I don't think there's any way that he can go up from here. I think people always see him as the person that supports greed. And I think there's some protection for us from the Republicans coming forward. I think, some people, they did what they did. That's all there is to it. Uh, Now they realize that all it led to was the greedy getting, or the rich getting better off. And now everything's kind of spiraling out of control, is what it feels like. Grocery prices are insane. Um, Wages aren't going up. Nobody's really getting good raises. You know, when inflation was going up under Biden, wages were pretty much keeping up with inflation. So well, it wasn't good. And it felt like, when you get a raise, you should get further ahead, and you weren't. Now you're getting further behind if you don't get a raise. And if you get a raise, you're probably still not keeping up with inflation. So I think people have figured this out. I think they're being quite introspective. I think the fact that he doesn't take ownership for his mistakes is really starting to annoy people. And I think, things going on behind the scenes, um, you know, the stuff with like, you know, Canada not selling American liquor, for example, stuff like that is what really gets people, and that makes them want to just move away from Republicans. So I think his approval rating continues to drop. He's partnered with the wrong people. People don't like Vance either. Um, there's a lot of volatility. They see his temperament and they're kind of over it. It's not, you know, now that he stumbles over his word and clearly has cognitive issues, it's really more scary when he stumbles and says stupid things than it was when it seemed like he had some control of his faculties. Now, I never thought he's had a lot of control of his faculties personally, but um, yeah. All right, so what's up with these speculations on the internet of him having a left ventricle assisting device or a right ventricle assisting device or just a ventricle assisting device? These are things that go into, my understanding is they shock your left side or right side of your heart with a real minute shock to help it pump blood better, either oxygenated blood on the left or poorly oxygenated blood on the right, either going to your lungs or going to the rest of your body, depending on the left or the right. Um, there's a picture of him at the Kirk uh, thing that happened where there were you could see lights through his jacket that fit the description of these things. So does he really have one of these things on him? There's definitely something wrong with his heart. I speculated that, they were wanting to do a pacemaker because he has this like galloping type of heartbeat. This would be something that would be for that. I just feel like his heart's just about to give out. Definitely doesn't feel good. Yeah, we get the five of wands. There's a lot of conflict around this. A lot of volatility with the moon card. Get the three of wands in the upper right. We'll have to see what that means here in just a second. It does feel like they're taking some pretty extraordinary steps to keep his heart functioning. I'm not sure this is one of them, but it does feel like there's something going on here. Uh, we get the world card. The world's watching the end of a cycle. I mean, the end of the cycle is coming. It's just the Seven of Cups, illusion and delusion. Yeah, big burdens, and notice they're on his back. Like the burdens are on the back, right? I mean, but like this device would be on your back. And I mentioned in yesterday's video that it feels like he's more hunched over than he has been in the past. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, but it feels like his chin's almost like touching, his chest or the top of his tie. Like his head feels like it's not in the right spot either. Maybe I'm just crazy, but that's just the way it looks when I've seen him speak lately. There's something really wrong with him. Get the Ten of Cups, families, reunions, and celebrations. Yeah, the Eight of Cups, walking away from things that no longer serve us. And we get the High Priestess, things going on behind the scenes that we can't see. Uh, it's certainly possible. There's definitely conflict about how to handle his medical condition, particularly his heart. Uh, I think, you know, there's some delusion here as if this is going to be something that prolongs his life for a long time, because I don't think it will. And there's definitely something going on that we don't know about. Exactly what that is, I'm not so sure. Um, we get the Ten of Cups, families, reunions, and celebrations, but it's also the end of a cycle. The tens and end, illusion and delusion, and then it's inevitable. It's inevitable that's you know his heart's going to give out, regardless of whether he has one of these things or not. Volatility is bad for him, and he's volatile all the time, so it's going to catch up with him. Just why I think we get the Eight of Cups here. I think this is him literally walking away, walking towards the light, in this case, walking towards the moon. The cycle ending, and then the Ten of Wands, another cycle ending. So we got the World card, and we have two tens, and the High Priestess. Sure doesn't look good. Uh, we get, the Queen of Swords here, logic and consistency. We get the voters. We're definitely being lied to about something with the devil here. Um, they speak a good game with the King of Wands, but the truth is, this is a pretty precarious situation. And, they're doing all they can, but I don't know. I think eventually we'll get the message that he's not terribly stable. I do think it happens after he's passed. Um, but the country in the meantime is protected with the star card. So it doesn't always feel that way. Things can feel very scary from time to time, but I really do think that in the end things work out fine. Nobody's canceling elections. That's not going to happen. It's just not. The courts aren't doing the greatest of jobs, but the lower courts are pretty much holding things the way they're supposed to. Not Iowa, Utah, for example, their state Supreme Court threw out their congressional map, which is going to favor Democrats. So, you know, there are things that are holding. It's just scary. So, all right, I appreciate you supporting the channel. I'll be back with another video soon.